Welcome back to another Health Hackers review video. This episode is all about GlycanAge, an at-home finger prick blood test that claims to reveal what it calls your body's true age, not your chronological age, but your biological age. So for example, this year I had my 36th birthday, which means my chronological age is 36. But this test that I'm about to take might say my biological age is older or younger than 36, because the result will apparently be based on the state of my immune system and the level of inflammation in my body indicated by the pattern of glycans in my blood sample. Never heard of glycans before? I hadn't either. But I'll also be speaking with the company's Chief Scientific Officer, Dr. Gordon Lauk, who's a professor of biochemistry and molecular biology, to understand more about this test. Before we begin, some quick important things to tell you. Firstly, because I like to be transparent, this kit was sent to me for free, and the experience will also include a free consultation about my result. Secondly, if while watching this video you decide you want to buy a GlycanAge test, as a Health Hackers viewer you can get a discount. See the summary text that goes with this video for details. When you use the Health Hackers discount, I will receive an amount at no extra cost to you. There's a link in the summary to my disclosure too. And please know, I will never tell you a product is amazing unless I really think it is at the time of recording. Thirdly, if you enjoy this video, I would love it if you hit the like button or even the subscribe button if you fancy getting regular videos featuring changemakers in health. And fourthly, nothing you see or hear in this video should be considered medical or personal advice. Now let's begin. The next thing you're going to see is the unboxing, then me taking a blood sample using a finger prick test. Skip that if it's going to make you feel uncomfortable. Then insights from Dr. Gordon Lauk, and of course my actual result, my biological age according to the GlycanAge test, which I'm a little bit nervous about, to be honest. All done, and the plaster is on. The finger prick moment hurts a little bit. I did it twice using 2 of these lancets to get enough blood. So now, according to the instructions, I have to let the blood collection card air dry for 2 hours and write the date on it. Then I put it into the plastic bag provided and post it off to be analysed. I'm going to go to the post office tomorrow morning, so my sample will stay in my fridge overnight until then, and within a few weeks I should be able to see my result online. Gordon, why would anyone want to know their biological age? What good can come of it?
There are different types of biological age. Some of it may be considered not really important because it doesn't give you some kind of information which you could use. What we have did with the GlycanAge, we developed it in a way that we hope is helpful to people. This slide shows generally what happens to people when they age. They start healthy, and then as the time goes on, they start to accumulate some kind of problems, and then eventually most of us gets ill. And we define illness by presence of pain or malfunction of some kind of system we have. And usually we ask for help only when there is really a serious problem. But unfortunately, most of the times, then it is too late. We have something people call a chronic disease. And it is being called a chronic disease because you don't get rid of it. You just get better and worse and better and worse, but you do have a disease like lupus or Crohn's disease or something like that. And what we are trying to do, we developed this GlycanAge based on biomarkers which regulate the immune system. So these biomarkers change maybe in 10 years before something really goes wrong. So we hope that by looking at these biomarkers, we can find people here and tell them, you know, there is something going wrong. Some molecular processes in your body are not the way they are supposed to be, you're not in this good green zone, you're moving towards the red zone. And if you identify the problem early, you can make a simple lifestyle intervention, lose a few kilos, exercise a bit more, sleep a bit more, and then revert this direction. And you have something you can measure, and the biomarkers of biological age, as they're defined, some of them, actually help you to do this. Because we all know we should be living a healthy life. We know that, but we don't do it. And the reason we don't do it is that the payment for unhealthy life will come late, in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Who cares about what will happen 20 years later? And we don't see the benefit. So, you know, if I want to lose weight, this is difficult. You know, I have to go on a diet. I don't like doing that. And the benefit will come in 20 years. So I don't do it. If there would be a biomarker, which I can measure, I do something difficult today, but in a few months I see an improvement. This actually helps to motivate people. So I think the key reason for doing a test of biological age is to see what is your current status. If it is not ideal, try to improve it, and then have a quantifiable tool which can tell you, am I doing better or not?
So you see GlycanAge as a preventative tool?
I see a GlycanAge as a tool which can tell people something about them which they cannot see in a mirror. And then if they want, they can use this tool to avoid diseases in the future. So the GlycanAge itself does not help people. It just gives information, but it gives information which you cannot get otherwise.
And how do you know that glycans are an accurate indicator of our internal health?
If you put it that way, this will be really hard to say because health is a very global thing. What we know that GlycanAge is based on glycans, molecules which regulate immunoglobulins. And these molecules are kind of regulators of low-grade inflammation, which is beyond, or which is the mechanism which leads to different chronic diseases. So what we know is that bad GlycanAge means you have molecules which are doing damage to you. Good GlycanAge is that you have molecules which are helping you. So we know bad GlycanAge is bad, good GlycanAge is good. Whether you can define it as a universal health, probably not, but that it is one important component of health, it definitely is.
Something else to be aware of, along with providing your blood sample, you also need to fill out an online health profile with questions about your lifestyle, your diet, your body and mind. Can the result be driven by genetics, not necessarily someone's lifestyle factors, like it's to do with their genes that they've got an older biological age?
So on this slide, what we can see is a distribution of different components of a GlycanAge in a large population of people. We actually measured 24 different glycans and then integrated in a single GlycanAge index. And we did a large study on a couple of thousand of people together with Tim Spector from King's College London. And there we learned that the average heritability of the glycan is approximately 50%. So depending on different glycans, between 30 and 50% of it is actually genetic, and you cannot do anything about it. So part of it is fixed, it's hard to change. But we still have a significant proportion of this glycan composition of the GlycanAge index, which is environmental. So which is being determined not by our genes, but by our behavior, the way we eat, the way we think, the way we exercise. This all affects our glycans.
So if somebody gets their GlycanAge result and they want to improve it, and they begin adopting lifestyle modifications discussed with one of your specialists, how long would it take for them to see a change in their GlycanAge, an improvement?
GlycanAge does not change very quickly. So if the change is radical, for example, we had people undergoing bariatric surgery, which is a drastic operation of stomach reduction. Then some of our patients got 30 years younger within a couple of months. But if the intervention is not radical, meaning if you're just on a diet or exercising more, usually we don't see results before 3 months. And for majority of people, it will be 6 months and longer until we see the real big change. So this is something which is a kind of a cumulative information of the past ages, and you cannot really expect it to change within a couple of weeks when you do something.
It has been 5 weeks since I posted off my blood sample, and yesterday morning I got an email to say my result was ready. Ooh. Now remember, my chronological age is 36. And according to my GlycanAge test result, my biological age, which is meant to be a reflection of the state of my health, is 35. So 1 year younger than my actual age could be considered quite nice validation for the effort I put into my health. However, given that there are people on the GlycanAge website with results that are 10 years, nearly 20 years younger than their chronological ages, it's left me feeling curious about how I could potentially lower my biological age. Also worth noting, when I logged into the website to see my age, there was a breakdown of my result and a scientific summary. I've got to say, I don't really understand some of the terminology used within those, but I now get a consultation with a specialist to talk about my result. It's part of the package. I won't be recording that session, but in my summing up at the end of this video, I'll tell you anything I think you need to know. My chronological age is 36 and my GlycanAge test said I was 35. What do you think my result says about my future health outcomes?
For you, the test will say you are okay, the way you would expect to be. Maybe you would like it to be a bit better. So it's always good to be in a safer zone. But definitely, I wouldn't say that you have a problem. If you would be 10, 20, 30 years older, I would say you could have kind of underlying health condition which you're not aware of. But for now, I think you're fine, and you should just check it maybe again in a year or something like that.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd like to see if my lifestyle can have another impact over the next year. I had a consultation with one of your specialists, and we spoke about some things that I'm going to try and put into effect. But given that each of us is unique, how do your GlycanAge specialists know what steps a person needs to take to bring down their biological age?
This is actually the most difficult question there is, because even modern medicine treats everybody as we were equal. So we do not have a universal solution for everybody. Our research, and we did a lot of research, we analyzed so far over 100,000 people. We know what generally works in people. But the idea behind the GlycanAge test is that you can actually check whether something works or not. So in principle, if somebody is overweight, we know that if they lose weight, GlycanAge would improve. We did a lot of research showing that people losing weight decrease GlycanAge. But if somebody is not overweight, then we have to look for other potential sources of problems. This could be hormones, could be stress, could be some kind of dietary issues. So we cannot guarantee that the advice you would get at the beginning would actually work, but we can surely check in a couple of months whether this works or not. And actually for GlycanAge, the most important thing is maybe not the absolute current level, but the trend. So is your GlycanAge getting worse or better?
Let's talk about some of your research findings so far. How many people have you tested, and can you tell us about some surprising factors you've discovered?
We did a lot of research projects in collaboration with scientists from all around the world. So far, we analyzed close to 100,000 people. And we learned some interesting, a bit surprising things, like, for example, with exercise, not everybody gets better. Some exercise actually seems to promote inflammation. And then people who would be spending too much time in a gym actually turn out worse. So just, killing yourself in a gym is not the ubiquitous solution. We did an interesting study with the 5 different diets, 1,000 people on 5 different diets, and there is no magic diet. Some diets work for some people, other diets work for other people. So there is no single solution for everybody. We did another very interesting study. We compared people from 27 different populations all around the world. So we collected samples from Papua New Guinea, from Africa, from Asia, from Europe, and looked what explains the difference in GlycanAge compared to their chronological age. And it was actually nearly shocking or astonishing to see that these changes are practically on a line with the development of a country and expected lifespan. So if you live in a wealthy Western country, your expected lifespan would be longer, something like late 70s, 80s. And then your glycans would move slowlier toward the old glycon. But if you would live in some African countries or in Papua New Guinea, where your expected lifespan would be shorter, then your glycans would move much faster towards the old age. So kind of environment, the living conditions affect the way how quickly your glycan is aging.
Your daughter Nina, the CEO of GlycanAge, told me that women get a better GlycanAge result when they take the test within the first 2 weeks of their cycle. That's what I did deliberately. Why do you think that's an affecting factor?
Maybe I can elaborate on that a little bit longer using this experiment which we did. So women's menstrual cycle is associated with changes in hormones. And one important hormone is the estrogen. And this experiment was done maybe 10 years ago in one of the universities in the US, where they had 36 women who had chemically induced menopause. So their hormones were suppressed. They were without hormones because of one of the drugs they were given. And then 15 of them got a patch with the estrogen. So their hormone levels were returned to normal, actually, or preserved at a normal level. And the placebo group also got a patch, but it was placebo. There was no hormone in the patch. So they did not know which of them had placebo, which of them had hormone replacement. And the women who did not receive estrogen supplementation, they became on average 30%, meaning something like 7 to 15 years older than what they were before this intervention. While women who were receiving estrogen, they just remained on the same level. And when this all finished, so when there was this chemical intervention was stopped, they all returned to the normal level. So the normal cycle of hormones, which happens every month in women, does affect your GlycanAge a bit. It's not very much. It's not that you will become 20 years older or something like that, but it is the fact that not every woman, but some women do have a variation in GlycanAge level together with the menstrual cycle.
That's interesting, because if estrogen plays a positive role, has a positive effect, you'd think the first week of your cycle, which is the period, that you would have a low level of estrogen.
There is one tiny little detail, and that these molecules which we are measuring have a half-life. They live in your blood for 2 to 3 weeks. So what you are measuring at the beginning was actually made a bit earlier. So it's not that the GlycanAge we measure now is actually your GlycanAge 2 to 3 weeks before, because of this half-life of the immunoglobulins.
Got it.
Right, it's kind of surprising. You would not expect it then, but it's shifted because of the production.
There was a breakdown of my GlycanAge result. I didn't really understand that analysis. You know, those 3 separate breakdowns. Do you have plans to simplify the way results are exhibited to customers?
What we actually measure, we measure 24 different chemical structures in your glycan, in the immunoglobulin glycan. So we take out the immunoglobulins and measure these 24 structures. The ultimate simplification is the GlycanAge. So the GlycanAge is kind of distilling all this together in a single number. But of course, you know, when you simplify things, you're losing some bits of information. So then the second step is getting these 3 key components. One is so-called G0, G2, and S, which are the structural elements of the glycan. And then there is the ultimate layer of complexity, where you can actually see your original 24 peaks in a chromatogram. So we will keep it that way, because different people want to use different information. For you, maybe just the GlycanAge is something you want to know. And you want to see, okay, my 34 went to 32, and you are happy. Somebody else, maybe your healthcare support or our specialist, would like to see, why is it changing? Is it G0 going down or G2 going up? Because we know that some different things would affect different of them. And then maybe ultimately, you want to see all those 24. So you take what you want.
And your specialist could help a person work out which of those 3 components needs the most improvement and could potentially provide advice on that?
Yes, we can provide some advice, but in most of the situations, we can do it only based on our average expectations. We don't know everything about you. We don't know your genetic background. We don't know all the details that you are hiding in your questionnaire, because people never tell the truth in those questionnaires. So the thing which people lie the most is how well are they adhering to some kind of health interventions. You know, are you smoking? No, I'm not smoking. Are you drinking? No, I'm not drinking. Or just a little bit, not more than 2 liters a day. So we don't have ultimate solutions. Our specialists are not magicians. They cannot give you a magic pill, but what we can help you make educated decisions about what you are doing. You don't have to trust some kind of ads in a TV saying this will change your life. You can try it and then measure what actually happened.
It's really interesting. One of the points that came up in my consultation with one of your specialists was it's her view that actually the psychological status of a person, their psychological well-being, is more important than diet and exercise in having an impact on GlycanAge. Would you agree with that?
I would agree that things you think and your psychological well-being is extremely important. So whether it is more important than diet and exercise, this will then depend on a relative scale. So if you have a reasonably okay diet and some exercise, then yes, I would say yes, your psychological state would be very important. But if you are extremely obese, then I would say let's first take care of the obesity, and then think about other things. But again, if you're extremely obese, this may have a psychological component. So we have to look at the person as a whole person.
I think my experience with GlycanAge has been fascinating. I'm thrilled that I only got 35 because I'm 36. I was worried it was going to be like 50 or something.
They're not that accurate. So there is a measurement error. So 35, 36, 37, that's all same. So if the second one comes to 37, that's not bad. It's okay, it happens. But if you would now immediately become 45, I would get concerned. And in your position, I would try to get to late 20s if possible. So, but this is good. Me, I am 25 years older than I should be, which is horrible.
Is that because of your high stress job with GlycanAge?
I don't know why it is. I'm trying to understand why it is. I definitely work too much, but it's I have a few kilos too much. I don't know. Still haven't found the magic solution.
Do you think that GlycanAge could also be a source of anxiety for someone if they discover their GlycanAge, their biological age, is much, much older than their chronological age, and they try changing their lifestyle and it doesn't change anything? Could they just be in this constant state of angst?
So I know that many people are afraid to do the test because they're afraid what results could be. And we have had clients who didn't like their GlycanAge. So I don't think this would be source of anxiety, because people who don't like it will say, oh, this is a rubbish test, I don't want to think about it. But I think it is very important that if you get this bad message, you really try to understand why this happens. It could be genetic. So some people have bad GlycanAge just because their genetics is bad. And then there is not much that you can do. But it could be an underlying inflammation. For example, what we know is that some kind of, for example, caries, the problems with your teeth could be a cause of higher GlycanAge. So if you don't take care of your teeth, you could have a GlycanAge issue. You could have some kind of a small chronic inflammation somewhere in your body that you don't know, and it's actually causing a damage.
So now let's talk about pricing. I noticed on your website you need to be a subscriber. Does that mean you can't just buy one test and be done?
There is a one-off test option also. So initially we started selling as a single test, but then people wanted to see the change, people wanted to be advised, and then we converted the entire model to the subscription model. There are models with a guided and unguided subscription, and models with the 1, 2, and 4 tests per year. So we don't recommend people to have more than 4 tests per year. They don't change faster than that. And then depending on how frequent testing you want, and do you need consultations or you want to do it on your own, then there are different prices. So the cheapest way would be to have this just a test without our support. You just get information. And then, for example, you may have your own physician with whom you're working. You may have another kind of a healthcare support, and you just want to have information. If you want to have information and consultation, then it's a different price. It's kind of complicated pricing.
Will it always take as long as 5 weeks to get the result back to customers?
At the moment, all analyses are being done in our central lab, and we are selling globally. And to make things worse, because of the COVID, planes are being reduced, delayed, post service doesn't work properly. So at the moment, there are 2 complications. One, you have to ship samples to Europe to get analyzed. Second, shipping is not reliable. So it was actually better before the COVID. It was up to 4 weeks. Now we had this extra week because of the COVID complications. We hope it will get faster. Unfortunately, it will probably never get really faster than 3 weeks, because this analysis takes time. It's a very complicated biochemical testing, what we do. But at the moment, it's 2 weeks really for testing and 3 weeks for logistics to get samples all around the world to the lab and then sent back.
This feels like such exciting technology, and for you, you must have plans to progress, expand, take this to other areas, other fields. Would you tell us a bit about those, or is it top secret?
So it is not secret. So the GlycanAge is the first translation of the research we do in the field of the human glycan. And this is currently the lifestyle test because the hospitals are not ready for this technology of glycan analysis. For something to become a medical test, hospital laboratories have to have different instruments, which they don't have at the moment. So the way we see GlycanAge moving in the future is first expanding on a number of different tests which we offer. This one is actually more kind of an immune age. We also have in a pipeline something which will be more metabolic age. And with time, but this time probably means at least 5 to 10 years, some of these tests will also move to a regular diagnostic test, which should be done in hospitals. So for now, these are lifestyle tests. You go and buy it and do it. Eventually, this will end up as something being regularly checked, like your blood glucose or something like that.
So after discovering my results, having a consultation with a specialist and that chat with Gordon, it is time to sum up my likes and dislikes about the GlycanAge test experience. We'll begin with the dislikes. Firstly, cost. I think it's quite pricey. A one-off test with a consultation is $345. There are options to pay monthly for different types of care packages. Prices range from $23 a month to $126 a month. When Googling other types of biological age tests, I saw prices from $75 to nearly $500, so perhaps that's just the market. While I think this test is expensive, I appreciate Gordon described it as very complicated biochemical testing, and health is an investment. Secondly, complexity. I didn't fully understand the breakdown or some of the terminology in my results. That felt a tad frustrating. In hindsight, I should have brought this up in my consultation with the specialist. In that consultation, we spent some time going over information about my lifestyle that I'd already completed in the online questionnaire. But I want to make clear, the specialist who did my consultation was lovely, and I hope I catch up with her again if I do take another test one day. Thirdly, postage. The prepaid postage on the envelope that GlycanAge supplied to return the blood sample turned out not to be quite enough. When I took it to the post office, I paid an extra 20 cents, but the reason I'm telling you this is not because of the 20 cents, it's because if you decide to post your sample back by putting it directly into a mailbox, you will want to be sure your stamps definitely cover it. In the instructions from GlycanAge, it does say people outside of the UK, like me, may need to visit a post office. And my final dislike is pricking. I should have pricked my finger nearer to the side rather than the center. That may be why I found it more painful than I was expecting. Right, time now for my likes. Firstly, attitude. I like the level of candor and frankness from which the GlycanAge co-founders appear to operate. Gordon and his daughter Nina, the CEO, don't pretend to have all the answers to reversing your biological age. You heard Gordon explain they can't guarantee the lifestyle advice they give customers will bring down biological age, but you can use the test to try and check what's working for you. He was also open enough to suggest there's a measurement error with accuracy and that looking at the trend of your results, whether they get better or worse over time, may be the most important takeaway. My second like, prevention. Any tool that could potentially help us try to avoid future health problems can only be a good thing. Admittedly, I don't have a knowledge of glycoscience or proof that the test results even mean anything at all. But I'm encouraged by the company's research, and if learning your GlycanAge serves as a motivator for you to make better health choices, that's great. I'm excited for the GlycanAge team. I'd be interested to see if and how the test expands, develops, and potentially moves towards a more diagnostic setting. And my final like is my result. My biological age turned out to be fine. If it had been significantly older than my actual age, I would have been concerned, and this point would be in my dislikes, especially if there was no certainty over what would work to bring it down. Obviously, I'd like to aim for late 20s like Gordon said, so I'll try to implement the steps recommended in my consultation, which include relaxing as much as possible, developing my psychological well-being, regularly lifting weights, and maintaining my current eating habits. If I do take another test to see if my GlycanAge has changed in the future, I will post about it on social media. Follow @HealthHackers on Instagram. That's it. If you like this video, say so, hit the like button or hit subscribe to the Health Hackers channel if you fancy getting regular videos featuring change makers in wellness. Thank you very much for watching. I mean it. And until next time, bye-bye.